Hello, and welcome to the Week 15 devlog for QuiVr, my HTC Vive archery game. This week we have a couple aesthetic changes for the map, some new mechanics for starting the game, as well as a couple menu options and quality of life changes that will hopefully make your experience a bit nicer. The first thing we have are the aesthetic changes. If you notice, there is snow now in the map. I think at one point earlier on in development there was snow, I think maybe when this map first came out. At some point it was lost and I didn't really notice it, and that was kind of an issue in itself because if the snow wasn't nice enough to even notice, then why bother having it in the first place? So I trashed the old snow system and added this one. It has a nicer soft particles. Sometimes they kind of flow in the air, they can get stuck every kind of in updrafts and things, and they rotate around, so it looks much nicer than it did previously. Additionally, I'm testing out some fog changes, so whereas normally you would have been able to see very far into the distance, now those far rock edges of the mountains are getting a little bit covered. The way that this fog works is there's two particle systems, one kind of at the far distance and another one above the map. So it kind of creates this pocket of visibility that we're sitting in here, so that it doesn't obstruct your view of creatures, but it does give it a bit more atmosphere. If we go up to one of the towers, we can see the fog a bit heavier. It's kind of more in our face and gives it a nice atmospheric effect. One of the issues with the particle system being they're kind of really large particles is that I have to use what are called soft particles, so that when the 2D planes intersect with these walls, you don't see a hard line. Now that's a bit of an expensive setting to use, and unfortunately I think it's a global setting, so it's affecting all of these other particle systems that we have in the game, and it's a bit more expensive. So I'd like to hear back from some of the lower end CPUs and graphics cards to see if the quality has suffered great enough that it needs to be tackled a different way. The other way to approach the fog is using a screen space effect, but again, those have other problems. They're a little less extendable than particle systems. I have a little bit less control because it's purely code based. And I really like the ability to kind of put volumetric fog in here. Screen effects are kind of a no-no right now in VR, just because they have to kind of render the entire scene again. A little bit less intense than doing a full render again, but still they do a full pass over the screen for both eyes. So I'd like to hear more feedback on the fog. Some people have given feedback, but I definitely would like some more. It's an important aesthetic choice to give atmosphere to the area, and so I want to make sure that it's done right. The other thing that you might be able to see immediately is that we now have this big glowing gem kind of sitting right over the entrance of that cave. The reason for this is that if we open up the menu, there is no longer a Start Siege button. That has been replaced with that gem. We start the game by shooting the gem. So it's a nicer transition, and people, when just starting the game, weren't really looking in the menu to get into it. That's not a very intuitive thing, especially for a VR game. So being able to create a more interactive system to start the game, I think is going to really help bring new players into the game without requiring too much explanation. Telling people that they needed to hit the game menu button just to actually start playing the game wasn't really intuitive, and so I think this is going to be a good change for that. I've changed the sound effects for starting and next wave. The next wave effect is now the original start of the wave, and the start game is an entirely new effect that is actually a kind of a custom sound effect made from kind of building blocks of a Magic audio toolkit to make one that more represented that kind of implosion and then explosion effect. So I'm going to let them kill the base so that we can see that gem is going to pop back up. One of the other cool things that happened with the settings is there was a bit of an issue still where last week we made it so that the bow and quiver start in your hands, and that was kind of a big design difference than it used to be, where you had to pick it up, and some remnants of that system still occurred. So when I dropped my bow, it used to be when I hit return bow and quiver, the bow and the quiver would fall down. They'd kind of be teleported to me but land on the ground. And a number of people were having issues with floor calibration and things like that, so I've renamed the button, instead of to return bow and quiver, to reset bow and quiver, and now when you hit it, it just pops right back into your hand. It is also the case for it looks at what your preferences are, if you're right or left, if you've set in the settings that you're right or left-handed. And additionally, now if you change the quiver position and take that and away, the game now remembers where you like to have your quiver position. This changes not only for that return, reset bow and quiver button, but also when you start the game up. So it's constantly, whenever you place the quiver at a different position, it will remember your last position and move the quiver accordingly. I don't think right now there is a setting in gameplay for it because it doesn't really fit in the hands section, so there's going to need to be another place for maybe the archery settings where you can set it in the settings, but it does remember it if you want to move it yourself. There are a number of bug fixes. This week was really, there were a ton of bug fixes. We upgraded our VRTK set to 2.1, which has a number of bug fixes. I'm now including the virtual reality toolkit right in my project folder so that I can always have the most up-to-date version and not require big overhauls every time I want to upgrade and add in the new features that keep getting added to that toolkit. So it is now a permanent, the repository is now a permanent resident of the project folder. I can just kind of run an update request and we'll have the latest version of that. Oh, in the settings, that was another thing I just noticed. We have our first video setting, which is the super sampling slider. This was something I saw that Pool Nation did, and now a number of other games are doing it. I made a Reddit post about it and have seen quite a number of people follow suit. I think it's a great addition, especially if you are not able to use the lab renderer's adaptive quality, because for me I can't use it because we're using terrain shaders and screen effects occasionally, which the lab renderer's adaptive quality breaks. So using the adaptive quality settings, if we have the minimum and maximum at the same value, then we get a set value for super sampling. So this works kind of in real time because the adaptive quality worked in real time. And if we bring this down, you can see that our resolution has dropped significantly. We can bring this back up to 1. This is the standard VR headset kind of stock quality. We can bring it up a little bit and we get crisper things. And if we go up to 2.0 now, before I let this go, oh well, too late. I do want to note that I'm getting very bad performance, not only because super sampling is incredibly graphically intense, but I'm also recording at 1080p and 60 frames per second to try to get a good quality video. So I am now missing frames left and right to try to keep this at 2.0. You shouldn't really ever put it up to this until we get the next generation of graphics cards. Even the Titan X with Pascal architecture doesn't really handle 2.0 well. So I'm going to bring this back down to a much more reasonable 1.2. You start to get diminishing returns. 1.7 looks just as good to me as 2.0 and doesn't have nearly the same frame drops. I can still see it occasionally, but 2.0 is just absolutely insane to put your graphics card through that much. So I tend to keep it at 1.3. That's a good setting. It's not too intense, but also gives a pretty significant boost up from the stock version. Yeah, we have a number of bug fixes, things that have been kind of running issues, especially the arrow getting stuck on the bow, which was finally diagnosed as something that happened when you really shot a ton of arrows at the same time. It should no longer be possible to get arrows stuck, and that might decrease the maximum wave because some people were getting fire arrows stuck onto the bow, which meant that every arrow they were firing was a fire arrow. So we should see a bit of a decrease in what the max wave people are getting to. But that was a great bug that someone at Reddit was finally able to reproduce consistently. He shared that information, and then I was able to reproduce it. So again, bug reports that are as detailed as possible for how to reproduce the issues are incredibly valuable. They lead to very quick turnaround for fixes. So I appreciate anybody who definitely takes the time to write out kind of exactly the steps needed to reproduce, especially rare bugs. It's really helpful, and I really appreciate it. And I think that I may soon even more start rewarding that behavior, because that's the most important thing I can get out of the alpha testing, and it's the reason why the demo is this fully featured, is because I need that type of feedback. So I'm not sure how I want to reward that behavior, but I definitely do. It's really appreciated, and it's necessary for making this game better. So yeah, there were a lot of bug fixes. We've kind of made the interaction system a bit more robust because of the upgrade to version 2. We have this new system for starting games, which I think will help players get into the game a bit more. I don't think we did anything with the talent system this week. We are going to be experimenting with different setups of talents. One of the things that I still would like to do is try out a non-player specific interaction with this system. So normally you hit the touchpad to bring up the button, to bring up the menu, and instead, if we were to put that menu here as kind of a larger system, when you teleport it up, it kind of came over to you, and then you could adjust things here in this big area. This would be your talent space. It would kind of be the home base where you went and adjusted things up here and then got back into the fight. This area I think is the least used, so if I could give it a reason to be used more, other than I obviously understand that the map is not perfectly designed. It was really intended to have good shots at that lane coming down here, but the walls are a bit high to do that effectively. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of things I would like to try to do with the talent system, because using that touchpad as just an interaction to bring up the menu, not even to select things, seems like a real waste of space. There are people who have been asking for other actions to be able to do, both push to talk, teleporting around, and kind of taking up that entire touchpad just for that interaction is a bit wasteful in my opinion. So I'll definitely be looking at changing some things. Additionally, some of the other things that have been started to be worked on but are not yet really, you can't see the effects of them, are the statistics setup. So I have 2 different statistics setups being run right now. Both of them they keep track of 2 values. First, the max wave that you've ever gotten to. When you lose, it'll update that. And then how many arrows you fired. Now, none of this statistics information is available in the game yet. It's just so that I can see kind of how they're working. I have 2 services. One is the Steamworks statistics, which I think will probably be the way we go, as long as it's working correctly, and I can make sure that I'm able to edit things and I'm able to look at them and really kind of understand how that's working. This is the first time I've really dove into any Steamworks development. And the other one is Parse, which used to be a backend as a service kind of provider, but then went open source. So I have an Amazon Web Services instance running with a Parse server and database, which will also be collecting the exact same information, your best wave and number of arrows fired. And I just want to kind of compare how those 2 systems work and what features each one provides to ultimately choose one. And that way we can get some more interesting statistics like accuracy and enemies killed. I really like statistics. I love games that give me all types of statistics. Overwatch is a great example where they have pages of statistics for every hero that you can play, and I'd love to be able to emulate that, because I think just looking at cool information like that is really fun just to kind of see. But at the same time, I know it's a touchy subject, especially if you're reporting it wrong. I don't want to, especially for things like accuracy, my biggest concern is that it stops you from shooting arrows just randomly, because shooting arrows are fun, and I don't want to lose that because you don't want your accuracy to drop. So I'm going to have to think about a good way to balance the keeping of statistics and showing them with, does it change how you play because you want to keep your statistics high. I think that's it for this week. I do have some other information next week. Over the weekend and the first half of the week, I will be in San Francisco talking with other people in the VR industry, HTC and the likes of them, in attempt to get some more information about more serious development for the game. Currently, I've been doing this kind of at my spare time. I really enjoy doing that, but I would like to take the game a bit more seriously now, because I'm getting a lot of good feedback, and I can definitely see that people are really interested in seeing more serious continued development. So it is unlikely that I'll be able to put out a devlog next week, over the next weekend, and potentially even the weekend after that. I will be out of town with my Vives in tow to show off at a couple places. So I will definitely keep everybody updated, both in the Steam community area and on Reddit, just to kind of know that things are being worked on. It just doesn't happen to be code this time over the coming weeks. So I expect to see some other types of updates come out over the next week or 2. So I appreciate everybody giving me feedback. Again, if you detailed step-by-step feedback is the easiest way for me to find and solve an issue. And so if you are able to, if you have an issue, especially a serious one, if you can take the time to sit down and try to reproduce it and figure out exactly what's going on, and then just kind of write it out, a paragraph or 2 does wonders for me being able to fix it in a day, that day usually, because I do try to read everything. So your time does not go wasted. I cannot stress enough that I really do try. I search out feedback. Even if you don't tag me in Reddit posts, I am searching all the time, because I know that people have issues and are asking others for support, and if I can give it, then all the better. So I think that's it for this week. I appreciate you watching. I hope to see you in game, and thanks very much.